5,144 years. That makes Bhagavad Gita of the world religions, and each of these are of the many world religions. Some of them have a book, some of them have a couple of books, and Hinduism is certainly what they call Hinduism is no exception, because there is the whole Vedas, Puranas, Mahabharata, hundreds, even thousands of scripture. But of all those scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita is considered the most important.
El Bhagavad Gita se le hace algo especial porque dentro de las religiones muchas veces tienen 5 libros, 8 libros, un par de libros solamente, pero dentro del hinduismo pues está lo que son los Vedas, está ahí el Mahabharata, pero es un libro muy extenso.
No, I don't think I can keep doing this.
No.
Okay, so what does that mean? Let's just spell that out a little bit.
¿A qué se refiere esto? Vamos a platicar un poco sobre eso.
The other predominant world religions, particularly in the West, from the Middle East and, over much of the world, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
La mayoría de las religiones predominantes son el judaísmo, cristianismo y el islamismo.
Now, if you say something like, okay, for Asia, Hinduism, the Vedic religion, Sanatan Dharma, let's call it for now Sanatan Dharma.
Y para Asia, el Sanatan Dharma.
Now, guess what? After that, nowhere in Asia did they ever have a religion.
¿Pero qué creen? No había ninguna religión en Asia que no fuera eso.
Said, well, wait a minute, there's Buddhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Shintoism. Those are not religions. Buddhism is called a religion by people who don't know, but any real Buddhist will tell you we're not a religion, we don't believe in God, and there's nothing spiritual about it.
Pero se podría decir que hay del budismo, del confucianismo, de todo eso. Pero si le preguntas a un budista real, él te va a decir, no, pues nosotros no creemos en Dios, no somos una religión.
Now someone says, well, what about Hinduism? That's a religion. And say, no, it isn't. That's a complete concoction.
Y uno puede decir, ¿y qué hay del hinduismo? No es una religión, no es una religión, es una
invención.
Una invención.
Yeah, actually, the word Hindu doesn't exist in Sanskrit.
De hecho, la palabra hindu en sánscrito no existe.
It's a word that comes from the Persians.
Es una palabra que viene de los persas.
They called everybody who lived on the other side of the Indus River Indus.
Le llamaban a aquellos que vivían de aquel lado del río Hindu, los hindus. Hindus, perdón.
But over time, Hindu became Hindu.
Pero pasó el tiempo y después de decirles hindus, ya se les dijo hindus.
So later, by the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Hindu also meant the Vaishnavas.
Y para el tiempo de Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a los Vaishnavas también se les conocía así.
But really, Hinduism is not a religion. One becomes a Hindu by failing to understand the Vedic religion.
Pero el hinduismo no es una religión, es
Uno se hace hindú cuando ya no alcanzó a entender bien la filosofía Vaishnava.
Then there's Zoroastrianism.
Y está el zoroastraísmo.
Yeah, now that's a religion, but that is again like, first you have, that's actually pre-Hindu, I would say.
No es una religión, pero es algo pre-hindú.
And it was started, there's a history to each of these, and they all tie together, where they all come from, and they all come from India originally.
Y son muchas, se les puede llamar religiones, pero ¿de dónde vienen todas esas? Todas esas vienen de India.
So we say Bhagavad Gita, to some we say Bhagavad Gita is the oldest religious scripture in the world.
Y se dice, el Bhagavad Gita es el libro más viejo de la religión en el mundo.
Now, if you look the small detail, there are parts of the Vedas which are older than the Bhagavad Gita. Yes.
Y si vemos a detalle, hay partes que son mucho más viejas que el Bhagavad Gita,
Like the Rig,
dentro de los Vedas,
like the Rig Veda.
como el Rig Veda.
But the Rig Veda is not the most important book in Hinduism.
Pero el Rig Veda no es en el hinduismo no es el libro más importante.
The Bhagavad Gita is.
El Bhagavad Gita lo es.
So for simplicity's sake, we're calling Vaishnavism, Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism.
Por simplicidad se le llama Sanatan Dharma, Vaishnavismo, hinduismo.
Yeah. Next week I go to see the consulate at the embassy of India in Houston, and I'll be saying, I have been a Hindu since 1970.
Sí, la próxima semana voy a encontrarme con el cónsul de India ahí en Houston y le voy a decir que he sido hindú desde los 70s.
But if we get into a little bit of deeper discussion, then it is better to say we are Vedantist, we are Sanatan Dharmist, we are Krishna conscious, and for the record, Prabhupada, he almost hated to be called a Hindu.
Pero para el entendimiento o una plática más profunda, se le va a decir que soy Sanatan Dharma, que estoy en la conciencia de Krishna, porque hasta de hecho a Prabhupada odiaba el término hindu.
But when he was in Italy, he wrote a letter to the Pope, to the Papa, and the letter was written so that he could get to meet the Papa and they could have some discussion. And Prabhupada said, I am a Hindu monk.
Cuando estuvo en Italia para poder aproximarse al Papa, le escribió una carta a su secretario donde decía, soy un monje hindú.
Because the Papa would know, oh, Hindu. But if he said, oh, I'm a Gaudiya Vaishnava, the Papa would go, what is that?
Sí, porque así lo iba a identificar muy rápido el Papa, es hindú, pero si le decías que era de la Gaudiya Vaishnava, ¿qué es eso?
Okay. So, the Bhagavad Gita, 5,144 years ago. Now let's look at how old some of the other world religious scriptures are. How old are they?
Entonces, 5.144 años de viejo del Bhagavad Gita. Vamos a ver qué otras religiones son viejas también.
Well, the newest one is the Quran.
La nueva es el Corán.
You can say the Quran is approximately 1,400 years old, something like that.
Y se puede decir que el Corán tiene una vejez o antigüedad de 5.000 años. 1.400 años, perdón.
Yeah, here we go again. Because Muhammad was born más o menos 1,500 years ago. He was born 500 years after Jesus.
Porque Mohammed nació 400 años después que Jesús.
And he created that religion.
Y él creó esa religión.
And then the book was written, the Quran was written after Muhammad's death.
Y el Corán fue escrito después de que Mohammed murió.
So you could just say, oh, it's 1,500 years old from the time of Muhammad, but from the time, a little after Muhammad, like 30 or 40 years.
Pero, sí, se puede decir que es de 1.400 años de antigüedad, pero pues fue como unos 30 años después de Mohammed.
Now, okay, so then you go back 2,000 years and you have the time of Jesus, of Cristo.
Entonces nos regresamos 2.000 años y está el tiempo de Cristo.
The book for the Bible, the book for the Christian is the Bible.
El libro para los cristianos es la Biblia.
The Bible that we have today, the oldest you can say it is, really, is about 1,600 years old.
La Biblia que se tiene ahorita se puede decir que tiene de antigüedad 1.600 años.
The pieces that make the Bible, the chapters, they existed as separate books, some of them for maybe even 300 to 400 years, 300 years more.
Y la Biblia de hecho se hizo de partes que han existido por ahí de ¿qué?
Como de
300 años para acá.
But the oldest books about Jesus are not the Bible.
Pero
The oldest books
los libros más viejos
about Jesus
sobre Jesús
are not the Bible.
no son la Biblia.
Those are what's called the Gospels of the Gnostics. They're older than the Bible.
De hecho, estos eran los libros de los gnósticos.
Right? But
Pero
none
no
of
son la Biblia.
them are written during the time of Jesus.
Pero
None.
ninguno de ellos fue escrito durante el tiempo de Jesús.
They're all written after 30 years, 40 years, 70 years, 100 years, 150 years, 200 years later, 300 years later, and adding to the stories and the story getting bigger and bigger.
Pero esos libros fueron escritos 30 años, 50 años, 100 años, 300 años después y agregándole a la historia para que se fuera haciendo más grande y más grande.
But if you want to forget the scholarship, you can say, okay, the Bible's 2,000 years old. That's it.
Sí, pero se puede decir de que la Biblia es de 2000 años de antigüedad.
Then we get to the Jews,
Entonces llegamos a los judíos.
and they have two basic books. They have the Torah and the Kabbalah. They have other little books, but the main thing is the Torah. That's the one you always see them. They don't print it like a book. It's always rolled up like a scroll, big things, amazing.
Y los judíos tienen el Torá y la Kabbalah. El Torá no es como un libro impreso, sino es más bien como un rollo.
So the Kabbalah, that's sometime around, I could be corrected on this, but it's sometime around what they called the Dark Ages of Europe, when Spain was ruled by the Muslims, called the Moors. During that time, Jews in Spain, they invented this mystic Judaism and the book called Kabbalah.
De hecho, cuando en España estaba como la época oscura, estaban ahí los musulmanes y los judíos inventaron esta Kabbalah, que es como un libro místico.
So that's after Muhammad, because the Muslims are ruling Spain, and it's written by the Jews in Spain around that time. I could be corrected, but it's around that time. So that's not that old either. But the Torah, that's much older.
Pero es despuesito de la época de Mohammed, esto del la Kabbalah, pero el Torah es mucho más viejo.
No, not mucho más. It's a little older than the Bible. It's written, actually it's written in Babylon, around in Babylon, and then after the fall of Babylon, in around 2000, what was that, 350 or 500 BC, about 500, no. Just after the time of Buddha, I forget exactly the time of, it was Babylon was conquered, the Jews were sent back to Israel, and it's during that time that the Torah was written.
Entonces la Torah es un poquito más vieja que la Biblia. De hecho es después de Buda, es cuando existía Babilonia, cuando fueron expulsados los judíos.
So at that time there were no Mohammedans, there were Arabs, people lived in Arabia, but they were what they called pagans. They worshipped all kinds of deities and gods, even Shiva Lingam, maybe Vishnu, everything, anything. Merchants bringing their gods with them as they traveled the world was very polytheistic, and Mecca was a place of trade, and there were many gods there, many deities there. Actually, Muhammad's guards were from Rajasthan. Yeah.
Entonces es en la época donde había mucho todavía adoración a Vishnu, Shalagram, pero no había Mohammed, no estaba Mohammed, estaba, ¿qué eran los que estaban ahí?
Los
Hebreos, había hebreos en ese entonces.
Okay, so around that time when Cyrus the Great invaded Babylon, he was a Zoroastrianism. So he freed the slaves. Those were the Jews. There were no slaves in Egypt. That's all hodgepodge. That story never happened. But Babylon really happened. That's a historical story. They're called I forget what they were called. They conquered Israel. They made slaves. They took all the Jews over to Babylon, and most of them were there. They weren't allowed to go back to their country for a couple hundred years. So when the Jews were set free and Cyrus conquered Babylon, he was a Zoroastrian.
Cyrus?
Cyrus the Great was a Zoroastrian.
No, perdón.
Entonces, de hecho, Babilonia es un hecho histórico, lo que dicen de los egipcios, de que fueron liberados ahí, de ahí los judíos, eso es otra cosa, pero en Babilonia, de hecho, Cyrus era zoroastriano y él liberó a los judíos.
Now, here's where it gets interesting, because if you come back to today, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism are called monotheistic religions.
Lo
They
que-
mean one supreme God.
Lo que es el judaísmo, cristianismo y el islamismo se le llama monoteísmo y es de que solo hay un Señor supremo.
So they say that because Christians came out of Judaism, Muslims came out of Judaism and Christianity, actually. They didn't exist before.
De hecho, ellos no existían antes, era de que ¿quién fueron los primeros? Cristianos,
Los cristianos ahí.
y judaísmo, y de ahí vienen los cristianos, y de ahí después viene el islamismo.
Actually, they're called the Abrahamic religions because they all come out of the same house, the same casita. And it wasn't a hacienda, it was a casita.
The smoke.
De hecho, se les llama la religión abramínicas, porque vienen de la misma casita.
Right, and so that's a whole story, how they got going. But what happens is, actually, the idea that there is one supreme being above all the other gods, devas, demigod, that idea is given to the Jews by the Zoroastrians when they conquered Babylon.
De hecho, la idea de que existe solo un ser supremo por encima de todos los devas y los semidioses, esa idea viene de los zoroastrianos.
So the Bible, for example, is divided into two parts, the New Testament, the Old Testament. The Old Testament is just a summary of the Torah.
Como la Biblia tiene dos divisiones, que es el Antiguo Testamento y el Nuevo Testamento. El Antiguo Testamento es un resumen de lo que es la Torah.
So summary means all the stories some stories are left out and some stories are packed up. Summary.
Sí, hay unas historias que son más explicadas y otras son como más resumidas.
So, for example, Adam and Eve. In the Bible, Adam and Eve, one man, one woman. Then they had two sons. But in the Torah, well, there was Adam,
Lilith.
Lilith, Eve, and Adam had about 10 or 12 or more kids. It was a very different story in the Torah, more big. But the Bible,
En la Biblia es como más resumido todo, porque ahí nada más se habla de Adán y Eva, Lilith, y en el Torah es ya Adán, Eva, Lilith y otras 10 hijos que tuvieron.
now, there's human sacrifice in the Torah, in the Old Testament Bible. There's just all kind of crazy stuff. One might even wonder, why did the Christians even keep that stuff in their book? Because they're all about Jesus, the New Testament.
Y entonces en la Torah, de hecho hay relatos de sacrificios humanos, y en el Nuevo Testamento los cristianos ya no mantienen nada de eso.
Because in those days, in newly invented religions were not accepted by anybody. You had to have an old religion. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Zoroastrians, these were old, ancient religions. 2,000 years ago, they were thousands of years old. So you had to have an old religion, and Christianity had to keep a hold of Judaism to prove that, well, actually, we're the real Jews. Because Jesus was the savior of the Jews, but the Jews killed him. But they're called the people of the book. The Jews were called the people of the book. After Cyrus, then they got a book. And they were called the people of the book.
Entonces, para ser aceptados como crear una nueva religión, tenías que tener como un trasfondo de una religión antigua, ya sea zoroastriano, egipcio, y entonces lo que hacen los cristianos es mantener lo que es el Torah, que es antiguo, y ya.
Just like today, people who know you have to have a parampara. People who don't know, people don't know anything. They don't know how the world is. They don't even know how the Aztecs used to be. Everything's been destroyed. People don't know anything. Who discovered America? Actually, the Vikings were here before. They say the Chinese were here before. Nobody knows much. But thousands of years ago, people knew a lot. And they knew more about the world and the history of the world than we know today.
Pero ahorita ya se necesita una asociación discipular, un parán, porque como ahorita se dice que los chinos, los vikingos estuvieron aquí, también no se sabe de qué pasó con los aztecas, ahí está todo perdido, pero hace miles de años la gente sabía bastante.
So 2,000 years ago, only the ancient gods were acceptable. You just couldn't invent some new kind of Jesus is God thing, and people would say, what are you talking about? Where'd you get that idea? It's just like the Ripvics. Where'd you get that idea? Just some newly invented religion. So they had to keep their connection with the Jews because the Jews was recognized as the people of the book, and they had existed even before they got their book.
Entonces, hace 2000 años no podías inventar solo de que una nueva religión, tenía que haber un respaldo de que pertenecías a una antigua religión. Entonces, por eso a los judíos se les llama como la gente del libro, porque el cristianismo mantiene una conexión mostrando que ellos son los judíos reales.
See, in those days, a religion and a people were the same thing.
En ese tiempo, la religión y la gente eran la misma cosa.
Greeks had Greek gods, Egyptians had Egyptian gods, Zoroastrian had Zoroastrian gods. If you went all the way back to India, the Hindus had Hindu gods, and all of a sudden, you got this new religion with a new god. And it wasn't going to be accepted, so that's why they kept the Old Testament, which is totally embarrassing for Christianity. It's got incest in it, it's got pedophilia in it, it's got human sacrifice in it, it's got cannibalism in it. It's barbaric. But they had to keep some part of it, otherwise they couldn't establish themselves.
Entonces, los egipcios tenían sus dioses egipcios, los griegos sus dioses griegos, los zoroastrianos sus dioses zoroastrianos, pero entonces por eso es que los cristianos mantenían el Antiguo Testamento, pero de hecho es vergonzoso, porque ahí se mencionan canibalismo, pedofilia, incesto, sacrificios humanos.
So, but nowadays, in the West, and many places in the world, educating people, teaching people, studying people a little bit about religion, they say that Judaism is the first monotheistic religion.
Ahora en estos días, gente estudiada dice que el judaísmo es el primer monoteísta
But this is
religión,
not true.
pero no es verdad.
The Jews got monotheism when they got their freedom from Babylon.
Pero la verdad es que los judíos agarran ese monoteísmo cuando son liberados de Babilonia.
The Zoroastrians are the ones who brought monotheism to the Middle East.
Y los zoroastrianos son los que traen el monoteísmo al Medio Oriente.
Now, Cyrus is mentioned. Cyrus is in the Torah. He's in the Old Testament Bible. Cyrus is the Zoroastrian king.
Cyrus está mencionado en la Torah, de hecho está en el Antiguo Testamento y es un rey, era un rey.
The Jews always believed in a prophecy of a savior.
Los
The
judíos
Messiah, they call him Messiah.
Los judíos siempre han creído en la profecía del Mesías.
Now there are different symptoms. When the Messiah comes, he's going to do something. He's going to do 3 or 4 things. And when Cyrus came, he did all the things that the Messiah is supposed to do.
Y siempre que hay un Mesías, pues hay unos síntomas de que hace 2, 3 cosas. Pero este Cyrus cumplió con todas esas cosas,
Except one thing.
excepto una cosa.
He wasn't born a Jew.
No nació como judío.
The Jewish Messiah has to be born in the house of David. Means he has to be a Jew.
El Mesías judío tiene que nacer en tierra judía, en casa judía.
Now later, the Jews reject Jesus because he didn't do anything. The Messiah is supposed to do many things. And he didn't do any of those things. None of them.
¿Quién?
Después los judíos rechazaron a Jesús.
Porque él no hizo nada. Él no hizo nada, en verdad.
Except one thing.
Solo una cosa.
He was born a Jew.
Él nació como judío.
And that really didn't matter much in a country that already had millions of Jews. The Messiah is supposed to defeat the enemies of the Jews. He's supposed to set the Jews free, and there's a list of things. And Jesus didn't do any of them, but he was a Jew, not a Christian. He wore a little beanie on his hat. They never show him, do they? They always show Jesus with nice blonde hair and a nice looking guy with blue eyes. Where's his beanie? Where's his little Jewy cap, right? What's it called? A kamutz or something, some kind of thing. It's what,
Sí.
yeah.
Entonces Jesús no hizo nada en sí, porque se supone que el Mesías judío tiene que vencer a los enemigos, tenía que hacer ciertas cosas que no cumple, y de hecho ya no lo pintan como una persona güerita, de ojos azules, pero en verdad, ¿dónde está su gorrito judío?
Yarmulke.
Yarmulke.
Yarmulke se llama.
Hat.
El
Okay,
sombrerito.
so when the Zoroastrians came, they had, well, let's call it the belief in one supreme being above all other beings. We live, demigods live, all kind of things live, but above everything is one supreme being, Ahura Mazda. His
Entonces,
name,
cuando-
Ahura Mazda.
Ese es el nombre que le da los zoroastrianos a lo que está por encima de todo, que es un ser supremo.
And by the time Cyrus came to where the Jews were, Zoroastrianism had been around for many thousands of years already.
Pero cuando llega Cyrus, ya los zoroastrianos ya tenían como 1000 años que ya no estaban ahí.
Miles de años.
Miles de
estando
años.
ahí.
Now, in a,
Miles de años estando ahí.
yeah, now, in a Zoroastrian temple, the supreme manifestation of God in this world is fire.
Y la manifestación suprema de, ¿quién? De
de
Dios en los zoroastrianos en un templo es en el fuego.
Now, if you look at the Old Testament, you'll find fire and other elements of Zoroastrian religion in the Jewish religion, including the monotheism, the fire. Muhammad, what's his name? Moses is on the mountain, and all of a sudden this bush catches on fire, and this voice speaks to him. That's there because the new rulers are fire worshippers. They call them fire worshippers, the Zoroastrians.
Y si vemos cómo en el Antiguo Testamento hay influencias zoroastrianas de cómo se volvieron unos nuevos adoradores del fuego, incluso cuando se prendió como un arbusto donde hay fuego y vienen voces de ahí.
Now, all the Zoroastrians in the world today, there are not that many, but they all know that the Western religions got the idea of a one supreme being. They all know that they got it from the Zoroastrians. All the real scholars know it. Even the Vatican knows it. Even the Papa knows it. But nobody tells it. Unless you study it at the postgraduate level. That means PhD level studies, that's where you find the real truth about religions in this world.
Y de hecho las religiones occidentales, todo se sabe que está regido, bueno, que se cree en un ser supremo, pero ¿de dónde viene todo eso? De hecho el Vaticano, estudiosos saben que viene de los zoroastrianos, pero nadie te lo dice esa verdad, a menos que tengas un doctorado o un poco más de estudios, es cuando encuentras esa verdad.
All right, so where did Zoroastrian come from?
Y entonces, está bien, ahora, ¿de dónde vienen los zoroastrianos?
Wow.
¿Sí se dice así?
Sí.
Zoroastro, ¿no? Sí.
Zoro, like Zoroaster.
Sí.
So like the Spanish conquistador, the caballero or vaquero, Zorro.
Ah,
The sword,
Zorro.
So Zorro. So Zoroastrian.
Sí,
Zoroaster, right?
sí.
Sometimes go Zarathustra.
Yeah, his name has changed over the thousands of years. He was the brother, correct me if I'm wrong, of Vishishta Muni.
Zoroastro era hermano de Vashishta Muni.
He's one of the great Vedic rishis.
Era uno de los grandes rishis védicos.
They were half brothers.
Eran medios hermanos.
And they argued over basically the Vedic concepts.
Y ellos discutían o debatían sobre los conceptos védicos.
And the brother, who's in the Rig Veda, his name is Zarusta. Jarusta. Or you would say Harusta. J. Ha. Harusta.
Y el hermano era
Harusta.
Jarustra.
He lost the debate.
Perdió, de hecho, el debate.
In those days, you had two choices.
Y en esos días tenías dos elecciones.
If you were the loser, you had two choices. One, become the disciple and accept your defeat, or get out of the country.
Y la elección era volverte un discípulo y aceptar que había sido vencido, o si no, vete del país.
Banishment. Either accept it or banished.
Es aceptar
Ser expulsado.
o expulsado.
So this now we call it Zoroaster. He was banished. He left India and he went to a part of the world which is now Iran, which previously to his time was part of the Vedic culture, but at a time in ancient history, the Kshatriyas, the kings, offended the Brahmins, and the Brahmins, they quit the kingdom. When they quit the kingdom, the kings couldn't do yagyas, they couldn't do sacrifices, and the Kshatriyas degraded. What were they called then? Not Malechas, there was another one. Yavanas.
Yeah.
They became what's known as Yavanas.
Ok, entonces Zoroastro es expulsado de India y va a esa parte donde ahorita es Irán. Pero Irán era una parte de la cultura védica, pero ocurre en un momento que los kshatriyas se degradan porque ya no pueden hacer los rituales de fuego ni nada.
So he went to the land of the Yavanas.
Ah, sí. Y se degradan y se les llama los Yavanas. Entonces él va a la tierra de los Yavanas,
Who were the fallen Kshatriyas.
donde están todos los kshatriyas caídos.
And he was a Brahmin.
Y él era un brahman.
So, in a sense, the Brahmins are returning to the kings.
Entonces es como el brahmana que regresa a los reyes.
Yeah. And there's a long story, and he converted one king, and slowly, in thousands of years, it spread of the whole of Persia. It spread all the way to Israel.
Y entonces ahí continúan muchas historias, se va expandiendo, se dispersa y
Y si llega
So
hasta
he's the...
Persia,
Comienza en Persia, ¿no?
y como que llegó hasta Persia.
sí, llegó hasta Persia,
Llegó hasta Israel.
llegó hasta Israel.
So he's the half-brother, Zoroaster's the half-brother of Vashishta. And Vashishta means the Vedic religion, Sanatan, Dharma, Vishnu, all the devas underneath, etc. So he took from the Vedic idea one supreme God.
Zoroastro,
However, when he went to the land of the Yavanas, he changed everything. And he made the Asuras into the supreme beings. And the Devas, the demigods, into demons.
entonces Zoroastro era el medio hermano de Vashishta,
Sí, gracias.
que él era la parte, digamos, de los Vedas. Pero entonces cuando llega a la tierra de los Yavanas, él cambia todo, hace a los asuras como semidioses y a los devas los hace demonios.
He mixed up many things, and the main god for the Zoroastrian is called Ahura Mazda. You know,
Entonces,
like the car Mazda?
ajá, I was thinking-
Ahura Mazda.
sí.
Ahura Mazda. Yeah.
Entonces él hace una mezcla y al ser supremo lo llama como Ahura Mazda.
Ahura means Asura.
Ahura se refiere a Asura.
Asura Mazda. We would say in India, Asura Mazda. He made the Asuras into the Devas, and the Devas into the... he kept the names. Asura went up, but Deva went down. And later, the word devil comes from Deva. Because the Zoroastrians, when they came to the Jews, they said Asura Mazda, the supreme being, and the Devas are the demoniac forces. And later the Christians also took the idea of the demoniac forces, and Deva became devil. You can look at that up too and trace the word devil goes back to Deva.
Okay. Entonces, Asura Mazda era como, más bien era es considerado el ser supremo, pero entonces como ya se habían cambiado las cosas, los Asuras son como los, ahora son los Devas, y los Devas son como lo más bajo, y de ahí se viene la palabra de...
Ahura Mazda.
Sí.
Ah, de diablo.
De diablo. Ajá.
Diablo. So in Los Angeles, fast forward to modern times, when there's the big Rath Yatra. You ever been Rath Yatra in Los Angeles? No. Oh, you never been? Okay, but usually the Christians are out there with their signs, and one of the signs they always have is devil worshippers, devil worshippers. So we laugh and go, yeah, actually you're right. But not just any devil, the supreme devil. David Jagatpati, the supreme Deva. You see.
Entonces, en el Rath Yatra, una vez en Los Ángeles, había esas personas como adoradores del diablo, y a veces dicen, de hecho están, verdad, acorde a lo que está diciendo ahorita, ¿no? Están en lo correcto.
So the Zoroastrians brought the idea of one supreme God, but only within the Vedas can you clearly see who is that one supreme God.
Entonces los zoroastrianos traen la idea de un ser supremo por encima de todo, pero lo claro y lo detallado y la verdad está en los Vedas, es quién es ese ser supremo.
So since the time of Bhaktivinoda, English language has been the predominating, well, not the only, there was only three, Portuguese, Spanish, and English, but in India it was English. What was I saying now?
Zoroastristas.
I forgot.
English language has been predominating, you said,
Yeah.
since the time of Bhaktivinoda.
Yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's been used more and more, and Prabhupada used that almost exclusively to describe the position of Krishna. Supreme Personality of Godhead means the Godhead has many avatars, manifestations. Even the Devas are way down on the manifestation, like Brahma, of one supreme being, Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Entonces desde la época de Bhaktivinoda Thakur ha habido, se ha manejado lo que es el portugués, el inglés, pero el inglés es el mayor lenguaje que se ha usado, y se ha utilizado mucho la palabra, la suprema personalidad de Dios, para dar a entender de que hay un ser supremo, pero de ahí tiene diferentes manifestaciones como Brahma, y lo explicaba nosotros.
So there were other terms also, and that Bhaktivinoda used, probably more. And by the time of Bhaktisiddhanta and Srila Sridhar Maharaj, reality the beautiful. And I remember the first time I heard that, Krishna, reality the beautiful. And then, what is that? That sounds strange. Because we were so conditioned. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only one way to say it, no other expression. And this was reality the beautiful. It was strange, but it was strangely appealing, attractive. Reality the beautiful. Ooh.
Entonces para la época de Bhaktisiddhanta, Sri Sridhar Maharaj, se le puso otro término que puede sonar un poco como, porque normalmente estamos pensando siempre en Krishna, el Supremo, pero ellos le pusieron como la hermosa realidad.
I remember some devotees, and it was so shocking because they were older, what we would say older devotees, and Sankirtan devotees and book distributors. They said, Krishna, reality, the beautiful. What's that? Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It didn't have an appeal somehow. It didn't interest them.
Devotos viejos solían decir de que, ¿qué es eso de la hermosa realidad? Krishna es el Supremo y ya, como que no mostraba un interés o una atracción por ese nombre.
So, however, those words, both Supreme Personality of Godhead, reality, the beautiful, the sweet absolute, these have been used all the way back to the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Todos estos términos de Krishna el Supremo, la hermosa realidad, el dulce absoluto, se han estado utilizando esos términos desde la época de Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
All right, so we're all the way back to India, and then if you cross India and you go towards China and those places, there's never been a religion, ever, in history, ever.
Y si cruzamos, bueno, de la línea de India y vamos hacia la parte de China, de hecho ahí nunca ha habido una religión.
A religion necessitates a supreme being.
La religión necesita siempre un ser supremo.
Buddhism doesn't have a supreme being, neither does anything that ever came out of China or anywhere.
El budismo nunca ha tenido ese ser supremo.
So it is fair to say, without any bias, that whatever religion you belong to in the Western world, it's just a branch of Krishna consciousness.
Entonces cualquier religión que alguno de nosotros pertenezca es solo una rama conectada a la conciencia de Krishna.
It's a branch without the leaves or the fruit.
Es una rama sin las hojas o incluso sin la fruta.
Understand? Leaves being the details and the fruit being what religion's all about. To understand the Supreme Being, to understand oneself, one's spiritual identity, all these things. No fruits. There are no fruits.
Las hojas son los detalles y los frutos son toda esa identidad espiritual y que contiene todo eso.
Years ago, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, he tried to prove that there was Madhurya Rasa in Christianity.
Una vez un discípulo de Srila Prabhupada estaba tratando de probar que habría en el cristianismo Madhurya Rasa.
And one of the examples he gave was that a Catholic nun wears a ring. And the Catholic nun is considered a bride of Christ.
Que un ejemplo que daba era de que una monja católica que utiliza un anillo es la novia o esposa de Cristo.
But there's nothing in there that says they have a love affair with Jesus. In fact, they detest the idea that Jesus had a wife. The Gnostics say Jesus had a wife. And the Catholics, that's horrible.
Y hasta llegar a decir que odian la idea de que Jesús tiene una esposa. ¿Cómo pueden hablar? O sea, no hay detalles de que las monjas tienen una relación amorosa con Jesús, si ni pueden pensar que Jesús tenía una esposa, pero los gnósticos dicen que sí.
Que tenía esposa.
So I'll give you a similar kind of example. What is that for the nuns? It's like one time, I forget the detail, but there was a Hindu lady, or maybe it was not a Hindu lady, but her son died. And they came to Prabhupada and they were so sad. They were lamenting. And Prabhupada said, you make Krishna your son. Does that mean she's in Vatsalya Ras? No. Prabhupada is saying something to ease the heart of a grieving mother. And the ring that the nuns wear is just to help them kind of keep a little mentally balanced in a very otherwise difficult life without a husband. Yes.
Como hay un ejemplo de que una madre pierde a su hijo y entonces va a decirle así a la Prabhupada que pues se siente mal, que pues dolida, ¿no? Y entonces la Prabhupada le dice, pues haz a Krishna tu hijo, pero eso no se refiere que está en el rasa de Vatsalya. Y entonces ese anillo es para mantener un balance en las monjas mentalmente, para que no, como están sin esposo, estén un poco más enfocadas en equilibrio.
Yeah, and there's nothing for the men, that they're the bride of Christ. Is there? I don't know.
Y no es como que somos las esposas de Cristo. Está medio extraño.
In fact, the most famous nun, I forget her name, don't need to remember her name, but very famous in the history of the Catholic Church. She had a ring, a special ring, and all this stuff. I won't tell you about that ring. That's too embarrassing to speak about. But she had this ring, and she was the bride of Christ. Well, they found her diary, couple centuries later, and it's triple X. It's triple X.
Como hay una, no recuerdo el nombre, pero de una monja muy famosa en la historia del catolicismo, que tenía su anillo y todo, pero después que encontraron su diario, prácticamente era triple X.
So this thing where the devotees try to do, what is it called?
Interfaith.
Interfaith, right? And to show kind of how we're all one, we all believe in the same thing and everything. It's just like, this has never been the standard of any acharya, ever, ever. Prabhupada said there are no Christians anywhere, they all eat meat, forget them. Things like that. Instead, they should be trying to prove how the oldest religion is Krishna consciousness. That's the new name for it, the ancient name, Sanatana Dharma, Vedantist, and it spreads out of India and comes everywhere else. We're the original, we're the oldest, and we're at the top. And as it went and spread, it got thinner and thinner, and like I said, no leaves, no fruits. But the thing comes out from India.
Entonces,
Hay unos
Hoy
devotos
en
que
día
decían
quieren hacer mucho
interfaith.
eso de la interfaith, donde vienen muchas religiones y comparan, pues somos parecidos por eso, pero no es nuestra historia hacer eso, ¿no?
No.
O sea, siempre...
y de hecho, como dijo, no hojas, no hay frutos. ¿Qué más dijo?
Que no es el estándar, no es el estándar.
No es el estándar de un Vaishnava.
Ah, sí, no, ya. El punto es que cuando Prabhupada dijo, no hay cristianos, todos comen carne, porque si hubiera cristianos, ellos estarían buscando cuál es lo más elevado, cuál es de la búsqueda de cuál es lo más elevado, porque es la conciencia de Krishna, tratando de investigar todo eso, y nadie lo está haciendo, solo mostrando como que todo es lo mismo, todos somos uno.
So some people say, well, we're just looking for acceptability. We're just trying to, harmonize. But the problem is the devotees believe the propaganda. Devotees believe that Krishna, it's all the same. Jesus is our guru. Yeah, the crow is our guru. The dog is our guru. In Bhagavatam, there are many gurus. But which way? Jesus is our guru. Oh, he's a pure devotee. There's even some devotees think Muhammad was a pure devotee. They think George Harrison was a pure devotee. It's like, so the problem with propaganda is when the community of devotees then starts to believe in that propaganda. So propaganda is a dangerous thing. The truth will spread slower, but stronger. And propaganda goes fast and it fizzles out when people discover that's propaganda, that's not the truth. Understand?
Entonces, los devotos muchas veces nada más están buscando por aceptación, por buscar una armonía, pero luego ya se llega al punto que se cree que Jesús y Krishna es lo mismo, que Jesús es tu guru, pero ¿de qué forma? En el Bhagavatam se dice cómo hay muchos gurus y todo eso, pero lo que es el punto importante es que la verdad se expande lentamente y la propaganda se expande rapidísimo, y a través de la propaganda los devotos nos dejamos llevar por eso.
Now, not only religion, what we call religion or spirituality comes out of India, all knowledge comes out of India. If you name knowledge, okay, what? Mathematics? India. Astronomy? India. Astrology? India. Medicine? India. Childbirthing? India. Everything. And the first human civilizations were not on the, what's it called, the Tigris, Euphrates, Mesoamerica, not Mesoamerica, what's it called?
Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia, but was India.
Y se
And therefore, Prabhupada said, all knowledge that exists in the world comes from the Vedas.
se dice que entonces la religión viene de India. Conocimiento viene de India. ¿Y qué es conocimiento? Es astronomía, es el nacimiento de los niños, todo eso. Y de hecho dicen que la civilización humana viene de los mesopotámicos, pero no todo viene de los Vedas, viene de ahí de India.
Somebody said, the atomic energy, atomic atoms. No, that's also in the Vedas. Brahmastra's atomic weapons, atomic energy. What's it called? Anu, the atom. That's also there. You cannot think of something. Black magic, that is also there. Everything is there. And we mean everything.
Todo está ahí. Hablando de energía atómica, Brahmastras, energía atómica para armas, todo eso, todo viene ahí. De hecho, partículas más chicas que los átomos está ahí. Magia negra incluso está ahí. No se puede pensar en otra cosa, pero todo está ahí.
So, without history, no civilization is complete because you can't understand how you got to be where you are today.
Sin historia no se puede comprender la civilización humana porque no puedes entender en dónde estamos parados ahorita.
So, I say this, religion began in the East and its spirituality spread its way westward. And by the time it got to Southern California, SoCal, it reached its worst. The worst Jews, the worst Muslims, and the worst of Christians, they're in Southern California. And after that, you go back east, where there is no religion. Japan, China, Vietnam, all these places, Korea, all these places. And you don't get religion until you cross over into Bangladesh, India, Himalayas, Nepal.
La religión viene del este y se va expandiendo en diferentes formas y cuando llega al sur de California es cuando se tienen las peores concepciones de religión. Pero en otros países como en Japón, en China, ahí no hay religión. Todo esto se mantiene, hay como una línea en Bangladesh, India, donde sí es que existe una religión.
So we don't, Bhagavad Gita, what I'm saying is Bhagavad Gita is the oldest, therefore it's the greatest, it's the origin, but not just based on time. Like I said, there's the Torah, the Kabbalah, there's the Bhagavad, there's the, Old Testament, New Testament. There are many Christian writings of different saints and all this stuff. And Zoroastrianism, they have, what are their books? They have two or three.
Zendavesta.
Zendavesta and maybe one other main book. Zendavesta, I think there's two. Then you get all the way where you got the Mormons and you got their religions and all this stuff. It gets pretty bizarre. However, all those books together, if they were wrestlers, let's say each one of those scriptures was a wrestler, luchadori?
Luchadores.
Then each one of those books was a luchador. And our Bhagavad Gita was a luchador. You can put all those guys on one side and this on the other, and this one is going to destroy and demolish all these others. Because those books are just full of superstition. They don't even know what the soul is. I mean, Zoroastrian has some idea of the soul, but after that, it goes downhill. There's no consciousness of the soul. Actually, the Supreme Being, he's always thought to be really old. Some people say probably might have died by now. Old. Navayovan, eternal, useful. No, doesn't exist. No knowledge anywhere. Bhagavad Gita, forget the whole. Just the first few chapters can defeat the religious scriptures of the world.
Entonces, se está hablando del Bhagavad Gita como es el más viejo, tiene muchas cosas, pero no solo basándose en tiempo. E incluso si pones todos los libros juntos de los zoroastristas, pones el Torah, Cábala, todos los libros en un lado y simulamos que son luchadores y el Bhagavad Gita es otro luchador, el Bhagavad Gita lo va a destruir inmediatamente, ¿no? Los va a demoler, porque del otro lado todos esos libros de religión están basados solamente en supersticiones, y no saben ni de dónde proviene el alma, y cómo se desarrolla el alma y todo eso. Y no hay conocimiento en sí.
So nowadays, people pride in the ability to make a free choice yourself. In other words, discover the truth yourself, or be an individual. Don't just believe what people tell you and all this stuff.
En estos días ya es muy común que tú escojas tu
Tienes libre albedrío.
te tengas tu libre albedrío, tú escojas de forma individual lo que hay, que no escuchas a lo que los otros te dicen.
So one thing I would frequently bring up to people, because I would really give like a really strong presentation of the Gita, like I just did, historically, this is the origin of spirituality, this is where the roots come for all the religions. But I wasn't born into that religion. I was born into Christianity, Protestant Christianity, kind of. They used to drop me off at church anyway. I learned to sing the songs in Sunday school. And so it's by my own free will, my own choice of seeing what, like you go shopping to buy fruit, and you see this banana, it's all black and rotten, flies are buzzing on it. It's like, and oh yeah, here's fresh, nice, ripe, some speckles on it. You choose the best. You know, you shop that way. Ladies' colognes, perfume. You know, oh God, it smells like dog caca. You don't buy that. You know, oh God, it smells like tequila. You don't buy that. You know, oh, this is the one I want. You know, and so as young people, we went looking for God. And, you know, the first book we got a hold of was the Bible, which made absolutely no sense at all. And it's not like it's mystical and you got to unlock it. It's like the deeper you go, the more it makes no sense. It's a book of superstitions, is what it is. Christianity is actually a superstition.
Entonces se está haciendo como una presentación muy fuerte de lo que son las religiones y todo eso, pero por mi propio albedrío, porque yo no nací en una religión del Bhagavad Gita, sino yo nací en una religión cristiana, y por mi propio albedrío yo hice una selección de qué es lo mejor. Es como cuando vas al supermercado y ves plátanos viejos, así no los vas a seleccionar, pero si ves algo fresco vas escogiendo y lo vas tomando, porque hay que escoger lo mejor. Pero en sí, lo que pasa es que todo está lleno de pura superstición. Y cuando tomas la Biblia por primera vez, no hace sentido y es pura confusión.
Y entre más profundo vas, hay más confusión.
That's right. You see the point now. But now you have someone like Ananda. She's born in the family of devotees. See?
Pero, como Ananda nació en familia de devotos.
My mother is saying, "Here's prasadam," saying, "Here's Krishna." Say Hare Krishna. You know, she grew up as a devotee. But still, we encourage her and all young people, okay, this is because your family gives you a chance, now you have to decide. Don't just because they said so. You have to understand, you have to have the discriminating eye, and you have to choose for yourself.
Ananda ya le dice a la familia, ten prasada, Hare Krishna, mira aquí está Krishna, pero no porque te lo dicen, debes de creerlo, debes de tener tu ojo de discriminación y saber qué es lo que quieres. Por tu libre albedrío tú vas a escoger.
See?
Para tu beneficio.
Yeah. You're not born into Krishna consciousness. You're born into a family where there was Krishna. But it's every individual's choice.
Es de forma individual la elección de cada quien, porque no es que naces en conciencia de Krishna, naces en una familia que está dentro de eso.
Now, other people say, well, yeah, Christianity is also like that. Mormons are like, everybody also like that. Yeah, not really. You're first, it's not really like that. People are born and they have a bias. And the preaching is with a bias. You know what I mean, bias? Bias?
Prejudice.
Prejudice. It's a prejudice. Like, they will say in a church, you know, Bhagavad Gita is the work of the devil, you know, or it's this and that, but they've never read it. They don't know anything about it. They just, you know, Krishna is the Antichrist. You know, most Christians say the Pope is the Antichrist. If you took a vote, who is the Antichrist? All Protestant religions agree, it's the Pope. He's the Antichrist.
Y se puede escuchar que, bueno, el cristianismo es bien similar, ¿no? En todos lados, es lo mismo que la conciencia de Krishna, pero no, porque ahí lo que hacen es guiarse por puros prejuicios. Ellos solo dicen, el Bhagavad Gita va en contra del cristianismo, hacen puro prejuicio. No, en verdad no estudian ni saben lo que hay ahí adentro. Y por ejemplo, los mismos cristianos hasta dicen que el Papa es el anticristo.
So, but when you come up against fanatics, unless you yourself are learned, unless you are grounded, unless you have listened and have the experience, then you can find yourself in a hard time dealing with fanaticism. You see?
Sí. Muchas veces lo que pasa es que te encuentras con el fanatismo y va en contra. Y muchas veces lo que pasa es que tienes como momentos difíciles y no has aprendido y has tenido la experiencia.
Now I'll tell you another little piece of history of what happened. I believe it's in the 1600s, so that makes it 17th century. A group of, what monks were they? They went to India, they went to Tibet. They were there for like 5 years, 4 years. Were they Jesuits?
No.
Franciscan,
Benedictines.
Benedictine monks, Catholic monks. They traveled to India. They were in India for about a year, and they went up through Nepal, and they went into Tibet, and they stayed there. I think 3 to 5 years they were there. And then they got kicked out of the country.
En 1600 un grupo de monjes católicos llegó a India, estuvo ahí por un año y después fueron a Nepal y se internaron en Tibet por 3 o 4 años y de ahí después fueron expulsados.
When they were expelled, they went back to Italy.
Y cuando fueron expulsados regresaron a Italia.
Now, as was the standard for most monks in those days, they were not good at reading and writing. In fact, most of them couldn't read or write at all.
No les era como que permitido escribir y
No
leer.
sabían, como era el estándar de muchos monjes, pues no sabían leer ni escribir.
So when they got back to Italy, they hired a writer, and they wrote a little book. Can you remember the name of it?
Oh,
It's a Latin name,
Tibetan.
Tibetan Memorandum or
Something
something.
like that, yeah.
Los muertos.
No,
No?
not
No.
Tibetan Buddha with that. No.
It's Indo-Tibetan, it's like our memories in India and Tibet is what it means. It's a Latin book. So they wrote this book.
Cuando regresaron a Italia escriben un libro delgadito que decía nuestras memorias en Tibet.
And in that book they mention Krishna, they mention Buddha. These are the two biggest religions, Krishna and Buddha. And then they say, first that, they mention in the book Krishna and Buddha are the main.
Se menciona en ese libro que Krishna y Buda son como los dos grandes de las religiones.
And then they say that somehow, the Bible got to India thousands of years ago, and when the people discovered the Bible, then they wrote the Vedas.
Y entonces dicen esto de Krishna y Buda, que las grandes religiones, ¿no? Pero de repente algo pasa y cuando llega la Biblia a estas personas empiezan a escribir los Vedas.
That's like saying you made a gold mine from 100 grams of salt.
Se dice, es como hacer una mina de oro de 5 gramos de sal.
Understand? No matter what you do, you can't produce gold from salt.
No importa lo que hagas, tú puedes producir oro de la sal.
No puedes.
No puedes producir oro de la sal.
What to speak of the Vedas? The Vedas and the Puranas and the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, all this came out of the Bible? Who were they? Who believed it? The farmer village people, and then of course the Vatican, they believed it, they wanted to believe it.
¿Qué decir entonces de que los Vedas provienen de la Biblia, que se escribió, que los Vedas provienen de la Biblia? ¿Quién va a creer eso? Pues sí, en el Vaticano y eso, pero también gente de pueblo, de aldeas, lo va a creer.
So now this is only like 350 years ago. That book then gave birth to an idea which dominated European scholarship for at least until about 100 years ago. For the next 250 years, it's called the borrowing theory. Borrow, like I borrow money from you. That Asia, Buddhism and Vaishnavism, Hinduism, borrowed monotheism that there's one supreme God and borrowed the virgin birth, the flood story, water to wine, raising the dead, all these miracles. They borrowed those and then produced their own books. It's called the borrowing theory. In other words,
La teoría-
from the birth of Jesus, they invented the birth of Krishna. Understand?
Sí,
It's called the borrowing theory.
es como la teoría del préstamo,
From Son
donde
Herod.
esto fue hace 300, no tiene mucho, 350
350
años, donde los cristianos, los católicos tienen toda esta información, pero dicen que acá en el este toman como prestado toda la información de Occidente. ¿Por qué? Porque todos los milagros de la Virgen, de las inundaciones, pues todos los milagros que se han descrito, los tomaron prestados del este de los católicos. Y es lo que se le llama la teoría del préstamo, se podría traducir.
Now remember, from the birth of Jesus, they invented the birth of Krishna.
Del nacimiento de Jesús se inventa el nacimiento de Krishna.
But at the end of the 19th century, which means 1870, 1880, around in there were four, I think it's four, I won't be able to remember them all right now. There were 4 archaeological discoveries in India by the British that proved Krishna was worshipped centuries and centuries before anybody heard the name of Jesus.
Pero en 1870 o 1880 hubo 4 descubrimientos arqueológicos por los británicos muy importantes, donde se dice que Krishna ha sido adorado por siglos antes de que se escuchara la palabra Jesús.
One of those was called the Heliodorus Pillar. Heliodorus Pillar.
Al
Column.
de...
Column.
El pilar de
Heliodorus.
Heliodorus.
Heliodorus was an ambassador for the empire of Alexander the Great.
Él era un embajador para Alejandro el Grande.
350 years before Jesus, Heliodorus came to central India and was part of a big temple function. He was an ambassador, and he participated in a fire sacrifice and worshiping Vishnu in the temple. And his name and a sloka from Bhagavad Gita was put on a big stone pillar, his name and where he came from and who he represented. So they were able to pinpoint it in time as around 350 BC. That was one discovery that proved that Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, existed before that time.
350 años antes de Cristo, Heliaduras
I should laugh.
fue
Agreed.
That's Latin.
fue a India, era un embajador y fue a India, a Central, y estuvo presente en un sacrificio al fuego, una adoración a Vishnu, y fue grabado en la piedra de dónde provenía él y quién era él. Entonces
Una
eso
sloka del Bhagavad
con el
Gita.
Nesloka del Bhagavad Gita.
Pero no fueron 3.500 años.
No, 350
años.
Antes de Cristo.
antes de Cristo.
Antes de
Sí.
Cristo.
Another one were 2 coins. Coins were discovered in Afghanistan. And those coins were also from the time of the Greeks. And on one side was one of the Greek generals of Alexander. And on the other side was 2 little statues of Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna had the chakra in his hand and Balaram had the plow over his shoulder. And those coins were also from a little, not 350, but maybe 300 BC. You can see these online. You can see them on our website, I think. I've written articles about this.
Está escrito en unos
Coins,
artículos
coins.
de nuestro website, donde se encontraron 2 monedas en Afganistán que pertenece a los griegos. ¿En la moneda está Krishna?
Ajá, en un lado es un general de...
Griego de Alejandro
Ajá,
Magno.
el otro lado es Krishna con el disco en su mano y Balaram
Con su flecha.
Plow.
con el...
¿Cómo se llama?
Arado.
El arado. Exacto.
Right. That one was really interesting. Then the two more, one was called the Mora Well inscription. They found this old stone well, I forget exactly where, maybe
Mathura.
Rajasthan.
It's Mathura.
Oh, it's in Mathura itself, and it had an inscription on the side of the well, cut in stone. It had the name of Krishna and maybe Balaram also. And then the fourth one, I forget what it was. You see. So then, in 1903, I believe it was 1903, it was entered into the Oxford Book of Religious History that the worship of Krishna predated Judaism and predated Christianity by a minimum of 4 centuries.
¿En qué año fue? ¿En 1903?
1903.
En 1903 se da a conocer en los libros de Oxford y se establece ahí que la adoración a Krishna tiene como un mínimo 400
4 siglos.
antes del judaísmo y cristianismo.
Yeah. But for 200+ years, with lies and twisting truth, they were propagating that the worship of Jesus inspired the worship of Krishna and inspired the Vedas and all these things. It's called the borrowing theory. But it was defeated by the British themselves. Archaeologists and scientists were not that religious. They wrote the record. And that makes Krishna the oldest singular deity ever worshipped in human history. And you can look that up now. They finally got it first. The first of deities is Krishna in monotheistic thinking.
Pero por 200 años toda esa mezcla fue provocando y haciendo pasar como si la teoría del préstamo fuera real, ¿no? De que del cristianismo por los del este fue robada esa teoría, pero en sí es que está demostrado como ahorita, y no por otras personas, sino por los mismos arqueólogos británicos, como la adoración a Krishna, esa deidad, es la más antigua
De la humanidad.
de la humanidad.
El primer deidad en el pensamiento
Monoteísta.
I remember the fourth one. The
Okay.
fourth one are the writings of Megasthenes. Megasthenes was also a philosopher, a poet, and usually those types of people became ambassadors. And he came to India and he came to Vrindavan and Mathura.
La cuarta prueba es de que ¿quién?
Las escrituras de Megasthenes, que
Megasthenes.
fue un embajador
Que llegó a Brindavan.
Ajá.
The original writings of Megasthenes were lost, but other Greek philosophers and historians later quoted Megasthenes, and he's telling about a procession, the parade that's going, and they're carrying a deity of Krishna.
Las escrituras
Megasthenes.
Megasthenes están perdidas, pero es mencionado en los griegos, como se dice que hicieron un viaje a Vrindavan y se va haciendo una peregrinación, una procesión, cargando la deidad de Krishna.
5,144 years. The oldest and the most knowledgeable book about
Megasthenes.
God on planet Earth.
Megasthenes.
Okay, so that's some of the background of Bhagavad Gita and some elbow bashing of some of the other so-called religions. They're called what are they called?
Kaitava Dharma.
Koitava Dharma. Basically, man-made, fictitious, illusory, imaginative. And that is why atheism is spread so much in the Western world, is because they've only studied the concept of God from these Western religions, they're pretty much ridiculous, actually. And the history just exposes them to be completely bogus.
Y después de que se expanden todas estas religiones que son como otra vez superstición, creadas por el hombre, y el ateísmo también pues no la puede seguir, ¿no? Ese tipo de
O
religiones.
sea, el ateísmo llega tan fuerte en el oeste,
En el oeste.
porque nada más están examinando esas religiones.
Atheists can exist anywhere, but the job of an atheist is a lot harder when they have to deal with things like Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, and these things. A lot harder because this is about philosophy, knowledge, and wisdom. We also have plenty of stories. Whoa, do we have ever stories? We have Puranas and Mahabharats, and we have, oh man, we have so many stories. But the Upanishads and the Gita, these are the primary books of knowledge, and these books are not easily defeated. In fact, they're never defeated. If the representative of the Gita is strong, it's impossible to defeat.
Los ateos pueden también tratar de vencer la cuestión del Bhagavad Gita y de los Upanishads, pero no es fácil, lo tienen momentos muy duros, porque si estás cargando con el Bhagavad Gita y los Upanishads fuertemente, no puedes ser vencido.
Most Christians today have never read the Bible. You ask them, have you read the Bible? If they say yes, you go, oh, what parts? You know? Every once in a while, if it's a person in the street, they never read it. Oh, what part? And then you say, oh, I like Psalms 113, 1 and 3, from the rising of the sun to the going down of the name, the Lord's name should be praised. Amen. What name of God do you chant all day? And they're like, nada. They never heard that. They don't read that book.
Y si la mayoría de los cristianos no han leído la Biblia. Si les preguntas, ¿has leído la Biblia? Oh, sí, ¿qué parte? Bueno, esta parte donde se menciona que hay que alabar al Señor. Y, bueno, ¿y qué nombre del Señor estás cantando diario? Es que no sé.
Then I say, and other than that, I like the parts about the human sacrifice, you know.
Y yo les digo, a mí me gusta la parte de los sacrificios humanos.
There's one YouTube video, you look up Human Sacrifice Bible, and there's a few, but there's this one little video this guy, this intellectual made, and he's reading right out of the Bible the story of this warrior, Jewish warrior, who prays to God, to the Jewish God, that if he wins the battle, when he comes home, the first thing to come out of his house, he will offer to God in a burnt sacrifice. Burnt sacrifice means blood sacrifice. And he wins the battle, he comes home, and his 13-year-old daughter runs out of the house and goes, Daddy, Daddy, welcome home! He then sends her to the mountain with some other Vestal virgins, and she lives for 1 year and prepares herself, and then he sacrifices her to the Jewish God. And then it says, for generations, the Jewish people observed this day as a special day. It's right there. And this guy does it with some animations, you know, and it's really good. And then he says, but if I got this wrong, I welcome any of you Christians or Jews, anybody out there, please correct me. And it's like nobody can correct him.
Wow.
It's right there. Lots of stories like that. Shocking stories.
Hay unas historias muy fuertes, chocantes. De hecho, en YouTube hay una persona que está relatando una historia de la Biblia, donde va relatando una historia donde un guerrero judío está orándole a Dios, ¿no? Que si gana la batalla, cuando regrese a casa, lo primero que salga de su casa se lo va a ofrendar, ¿no? Como sacrificio de sangre. Y entonces cuando regresa, la que corre primero es su hija. Y, papá, regresaste de casa. Y entonces la toma la niña, la lleva, por 1 año se la lleva a la montaña, se está preparando y la sacrifica y la ofrece. Dice, y va relatando muy dinámico todo eso. Es muy buena esa parte del YouTube.
Now in Judaism, after Then who came in and defeated Cyrus? Was it the Romans?
No, that came much later. That was the
Us-
Assyrians.
The Assyrians. The Assyrians. And, what am I saying here? Oh, yes, the first priest for after the Jews got Israel back and Cyrus, and the first priest are called, what are they called here?
Pharisees.
Pharisees. That's the priest. After that, the Zoroastrians are chased out. The Pharisees are Zoroastrian priests. They were the priests in the Jewish temple. And they got chased out, and then it's called the rabbinical period, the rabbis. That's just before Jesus, the rabbis.
¿Rabinos? Sí, ¿no?
Yeah. And the rabbis wrote many books which are still available today, and they are telling the Jewish people, don't do human sacrifice. Up until the time of Jesus even, Jews were still doing human sacrifice 20 kilometers from Jerusalem in the valley of Hinnom in the temple of Moloch. And that was the place for not just human sacrifice, but to sacrifice 6 months and less old babies in the fire.
A ver, estuvo largo, ¿no? Primero dijo que Cyrus fue vencido por los asirios, ¿no? Así. Y después, ¿cómo fue la parte ahí de donde él...
En las iglesias, salieron los monjes judeos, ¿no? Y llegaron estos de esos
Faraones.
faraones, ajá.
The
Y
Jewish,
después de
Jewish
ellos-
priests today are still rabbis.
Y después siguieron los
Los rabinos.
Los rabinos.
Y los rabinos escribieron varios libros donde se mencionaba ahí que le decían a los judíos que no hicieran sacrificios humanos.
Pero a 20 kilómetros de ahí había un templo de Moloch donde hacían muchos sacrificios muy fuertes, hasta de bebés de 6 meses o menos.
Yeah. Now that deity, there was a deity, a statue, it was in the statue of a bull. It was made of copper. It was like 12 or 13 feet tall.
Human body.
Human body, head of a bull. And it had its hands out like this. And there was like a pot, like this. And in the back, they would put fire and they would heat the copper. Copper heats very fast until the whole thing was red hot. And then they would take the babies and put them in this bowl and dry fry. Now, not only that, but when the sacrifice was over, everybody who came there took a little pinchy. Just like we take from the yagya, the black ashes, what's it called?
Yegyashishta.
Yagyashishta. In the church, the blood and the body of Jesus. Well, why is there all that? Because in those days, people were still doing human sacrifice and eating a little bit of that flesh from the offering. And there's records of how it goes on. They're banging cymbals and playing drums and hooting and shouting, mainly so the parents can't hear the babies screaming. And this wasn't sometimes, this was all the time for thousands of years in all around the Mediterranean, and particularly also in Carthage. The two biggest were near Israel, near Jerusalem, and near Carthage, the ancient city of Carthage. And in these places where the archaeologists go, lots of baby bones. Lots of baby bones. Because then when it's over, the priest just take the, throw it out in these pits. So what to speak of being monotheist, inventing monotheists, they were still doing human sacrifice even after monotheism reached Israel.
And cannibalism.
It's called ritualistic cannibalism. And that's one of the reasons that later on the Romans were like, what is this Christianity? Because it's like ritualistic cannibalism. They're eating the Savior. It was like, what?
Ahí había una deidad que tenía la mitad del cuerpo de humano y tenía una cabeza de toro. Pero ahí en esa deidad tenía sus manos extendidas y tenía como, digamos, una olla y todo estaba hecho de cobre. Entonces ponían fuego a esa olla y se calentaba tanto esa deidad que quedaba rojo. Y entonces cuando iba a hacer ese sacrificio, arrojaban al bebé, pero para que no escucharan el chillido del niño, los papás empezaban a sonar platillos y tambores y todo eso. Y también esto se transmite a lo que es cuando que tomas la sangre de Cristo y comes el cuerpo de Cristo, viene de todo eso porque se practicaban sacrificios humanos. Pero después de que, hablando del toro, ya aventaban a los niños, para terminar la celebración, iban y tomaban un pedacito del bebé y se lo comían. Y es como acá en el sacrificio del fuego, las cenizas se ponen en la frente, así es como se hace, pero ellos lo hacían en el canibalismo. Entonces los romanos decían que qué tipo de rituales hacían estos cristianos, ¿no? Era más bien como rituales canibalescos.
One last thing. There's a word in the Vedas, it's really not in the Vedas, it's in the Puranas and Mahabharata. It's called malecha. Malecha. You're familiar with that word. Prabhupada uses that word, malecha. Malecha, according to the research of etymology and linguistics and everything, that word is not a Sanskrit word. It's in the Sanskrit literature, but it's not a Sanskrit word. It's a Semitic word which has been Sanskritized, and it means the worshippers of Moloch, it means unclean. So when you crossed India, you went to Afghanistan, you went to Iran, you went to Iraq, it was all good, all across Persia, and all of a sudden, you hit the area, and beyond that, around the Mediterranean, they worshipped Moloch. And the Vedic civilization considered them unclean. Unclean.
En los Puranas, en Mahabharata, hay una palabra que se llama melecha, pero esa palabra etimológicamente no es ni sánscrito, más bien es como...
Lo asimilaron al sánscrito.
Ándale, sanskritizada es la palabra. Y esa hace referencia al Mulak, adoradores del Mulak. Pero entonces, cuando desde los Vedas hasta la parte donde está Jerusalén y todas esas partes, los Vedas le llamaban a esa parte melechas, que es como lo no limpio, gente no limpia, impura.
However, in the churches in India, they still preach that when the Bible came to India, then they invented Krishna and the Vedas and the Upanishads and the Vedanta Sutra and all this stuff. So the truth rarely gets spoken, and the lies are what's spread everywhere.
La verdad raramente es hablada y las mentiras se esparcen por donde sea, porque esto decía de que como dicen que de la Biblia se inspiran los Vedas para crear todo esto de Krishna y lo demás.
Que siguen diciendo
eso.
de la India.
Sí.
So nowadays in the political arena, in the social political, social political arena, particularly in Estados Unidos and in Europe and other places also, but mainly there's this word now, truth seeker. People seek the truth.
Como ahorita en el ámbito sociopolítico está esa palabra de buscadores de la verdad.
I'm pretty sure, you know, that Marine general, the Marine guy, he says that he's a Christian and he belonged to a particular group of Christianity. But then he kind of woke up, took the red pill, became a truth seeker, right? My guess was he was a Catholic, because they've had so much shame and, child abuse and all this stuff. This guy finally just like, why am I part of this? What do I... And this guy then left like the established religion, but he still believes in God, right? Anyway, not sure about that. But, that was my point now.
Truth seekers?
Yeah, truth seeker. So, there's lots of them, that's their thrust. Search for the truth, right? But they all say, but be prepared, because when you find it, it can be shocking. And that's about politics, about religion, about food we eat, about the medical system, everything. Search for the truth, but be ready to be a warrior, a truth warrior. The truth is not for the weak at heart. It's not for people with shaky legs. You know, and like in the movie Matrix, there are some people who just go, nah, give me the blue pill. I liked it the way it was. You know, they just want to live the illusion and don't worry about it. When I'm dead, I'm dead. No, when you're dead, you're not dead. You're just cashing in all your karma and go to your next life. You're not dead when you're dead. So,
Había un marín que pertenecía a un ramo del cristianismo, ¿no? Y él decía que era lo mejor, pero después de un tiempo se da cuenta que todo esto del abuso sexual, las molestias, etcétera, etcétera, se da cuenta y dice, ¿cómo puedo pertenecer todavía a esto, no? Entonces se sale, pero sigue teniendo su fe en Dios, ¿no? Entonces, Guru Maharaj menciona aquí que para ser un buscador de la verdad, mejor debes de estar preparado para algo fuerte, porque siempre llega muy choqueante esa situación, no importa en cuestión de alimentación, conocimiento, política, social, siempre es choqueante, porque el buscador de la verdad no está hecha para personas que les tambalean las piernas, y pone el ejemplo de Matrix, la película, que la píldora roja o la azul, y muchos escogen la azul porque prefieren estar en la ilusión, no buscar esa verdad, porque la verdad es fuerte.
so was the talk interesting or boring?
¿Estuvo interesante o aburrido?
Súper.
Súper
Are we
interesante.
ready to be warriors?
¿Listos para ser guerreros?
There's always something to learn, even if it's something reviewed before.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Review of a good thing is good.
Yeah.
What did Prabhupada say? Repetition of a good thing is good.
¿Cómo decía Prabhupada? Repetición
La
de las...
repetición de algo bueno es bueno.
Siempre es bueno.
It's amazing how nowadays some people want to rewrite the history of even the modern world, even World War II. Without the Russians, there would have been no victory over Hitler. And they lost more people defeating Hitler than anybody else, everybody else combined. If they hadn't have been there, then all of Hitler's forces would have just invaded to England and they'd have reached all the way to the United States. It was because of the Russians, but now because of the politics, they're trying to make it out that the Russians had nothing to do with the victory in World War II. And they actually give money to the Nazis, the neo-Nazis, what do they call the Ukrainians. These were part of the Nazis. And now, they're saying, no, they're just rewriting history. But when history is lost, well, humanity suffers.
Cuando la historia es perdida, la humanidad sufre, porque hablando de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, si no hubiera sido por los rusos, las fuerzas de los nazis de Hitler estarían ya en Rusia, en Inglaterra, y estarían aproximándose a Estados Unidos. Y de hecho los rusos fueron los que perdieron más vidas y víctimas en esa guerra, pero si no hubiera sido por ellos. Pero ahorita en esta cuestión, en estos momentos actual y presente, es que están tratando de borrarlo del planeta como
Por la política,
como si ellos no hubieran hecho nada. Y de hecho los ucranianos que son neonazis están contra los rusos también.
So, you go into a store and you can see, say, in a big bookstore in somewhere in Mexico City, they may have Bhagavad Gita, they may have this, they have the Bible, they have all these books, but there's no sign that says the oldest book in human history, right here. Now, somebody could come up from the Vedas and show you an Upanishad, but that's the cousin brother of the Bhagavad Gita. That's not a different family. That's a detail. That's a detail, which is the oldest written part of the Vedas. Well, it's the Rig Veda. What happened?
It's that clock.
That thing fell down. Sorry. It's the Rig Veda.
De hecho puedes ir a una librería o biblioteca de la Ciudad de México y puedes ver que hay un Bhagavad Gita, hay libros, lo que sea, pero no hay mencionado como, este libro es el más viejo de la historia. ¿Qué dijo los Upanishads?
O sea, hablando de detalles, bueno, hay otros libros
Más
de las
viejos.
Vedas más antiguos, pero son como primos, o sea, es de lo mismo.
So you should just be aware that you don't just have a book, a Bhagavad Gita, and somebody else has a Bible, and somebody else has a Torah, and somebody else has a Quran. No, you've got the one that gave birth to all of these others, and yours is in the most original condition and is filled with more knowledge than all those put together. They don't even tell you what the soul is, or where it comes from, or anything.
Como No es de que, bueno, el Torah, el Corán, el Bhagavad Gita tienen sus cosas cada quien. No, busca el libro que le da el origen a todos estos libros, que te enseñan de dónde viene el alma, qué es el alma, y que aunque todos juntos esos libros no tienen nada a comparación del Gita.
So, what happened to our 4? That's a little bit strange, 4. It almost looks like a 5. Anyway, as Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so Bhagavad Gita is the Supreme Shastra.
Krishna es la suprema personalidad de Dios, Bhagavad Gita es la escritura suprema.
Yes. All right, Hare Krishna. So, preguntas or prashadam?
I think the second one.
All right, any questions or no questions?
¿Preguntas?
No, solamente un comentario porque él dijo que qué tal estaba su prédica, su clase, ¿no? Preguntó.
You ask,
Quiero decir algo en relación a eso, ¿no?
you ask how was your talk? No? She wants to mention something about that.
Please.
Por
Sí,
favor.
para mí sus palabras son un reto a la inteligencia de cualquiera
For me, your words are a challenge of the intelligence of anyone.
y es un absoluto conocimiento de la historia, la antropología, y para mí es lo más hermoso que he encontrado en un devoto viviente que no sea una escritura, ¿sí? Que sea un devoto viviente para una retroalimentación para mi mente y para mi corazón.
And it's a big knowledge in history, anthropology, and it's so beautiful that it's a living entity giving this and not a scripture, because it's a relief for my mind and my heart.
Your words are for my...
There was a book, okay? I found this book once, and most of the proof that Krishna was the oldest, the coins, all this stuff, the pillar, Heliodorus pillar. I found this book, Vishnu Maharaj and I found this big book, big white book. We bought it in India. And I got this book, and I never read the introductions, I just go right to the book, right? So I go for and there's all this information by, I think his name was BP or BB, BP Banerjee. Banerjee is a Bengali. And at the time, he was the head of the Archaeological Survey Museum in Delhi, the National Museum. He was at the head.
Entonces, todas estas de las pruebas de que Krishna es el más adorado en la antigüedad, el ser supremo, viene de un
libro llamado Vipin.
Banerjee, escrito por Banerjee, que es bengalí, y es uno de las cabezas del Instituto de Arqueología
de
Delhi.
I believe the book was called Krishna in Art and History.
Krishna en arte e historia, ese libro.
So when I found this, I mean, it was so inspiring. Then we went and found these things. We went and found that pillar and took pictures of it. And, you know, this was our guidebook to go and find all this stuff that showed that Krishna is the oldest, right?
Ese fue un libro guía para nosotros, porque fuimos y tomamos fotos y fuimos a esos lugares.
So it was like, Vishnu Maharaj and I would say, it's like, wow, like, it's just like Prabhupada guided us to this book or something. It was like there was some divine intervention, like, it seemed like this book was meant for us in the way that it almost sounded like Prabhupada was speaking through this book or something, right?
Y para nosotros, para Vishnu Maharaj, para mí fue como una intervención divina de que Prabhupada nos estaba guiando y que Prabhupada nos hablaba sobre ese libro.
So
De
years
ese libro.
later, 2 years later, I finally got around to reading the introduction.
Y entonces, antes había mencionado que cuando tuve ese libro, no fue a la introducción, nada, él se fue directo al libro, ¿no? Entonces, 2 años después, me puse a leer la introducción.
And the man is writing, Mr. Banerjee is writing, and he says, and on the happy occasion, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami came to my house before Prabhupada came to America. Before he went to America. It's like 1962 or something like this. And encouraged me to present this archaeological evidence to show that Krishna is the primal, original, oldest, ancientest worshipped deity. And I went, wow. So now I look at the introductions first. So
Entonces, ahí en la introducción dice y que fue motivado por Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada a que impulsara a mostrar estos hechos históricos y arqueológicos, que Krishna es el más antiguo y el ser supremo adorado en la humanidad.
actually, I wasn't reading the introduction. I was flipping through the book, to show somebody something, and one page fell open, and I saw Prabhupada's name. It's like, I just AC, like, what? Then I read the whole thing, oh my gosh. That's why it sounded so much like Prabhupada, because Prabhupada said, no, you see, you take this information and you present it like this, and he was inspired by Srila Prabhupada.
Entonces este hombre, Banerjee, fue inspirado por Srila Prabhupada y por eso lo relaciona que vibraba como Srila Prabhupada, porque Prabhupada fue el que inspiró para que se escribiera este libro.
Now, that book could be in Vermont, or Tripurari Maharaj has it, I think, or it's lost.
Puede ser que esté en Vermont o con Tripurari Maharaj o tal vez perdido.
Might still have it.
Yeah, maybe look for it. All right, so, Hare Krishna. Más preguntas? Nada más, one from Jai.
We have one question coming from Vermont on the
okay.
Bhagavad Gita.
Well,
That in the Bhagavad
Who's it
Gita,
from?
That's from Kalki. In Bhagavad Gita, the Pandavas were engaged in killing for the principle of religion.
oh, yeah.
Many wars were fought in past millenniums and present under the same banner.
Not,
What is the difference?
big difference. This was not a religious war. Religious principles should guide one's life in all aspects of life. This was not a war fought over religion. Everybody there belonged to the same religion. It wasn't a divide in religion. It had nothing to do with making the other guy your religion. Nothing to do with those wars that you're thinking of, Koki, and crusades and all this kind of... Not at all. Not at all. They were all disciples of the same guru, in fact, Dronacharya. They were Kshatriyas. It was a family affair. It was called fratricidal war. And then there were politics. And it was over who's going to be the emperor. Who is the rightful emperor? Someone had cheated the Pandavas, stolen the throne.
La pregunta de Kalki es cómo es que en la batalla de Kurukshetra se están matando, como hemos visto en muchos milenios, y hoy en día matan por la religión. Y contesta Guru Maharaj que no es por la religión, eso es completamente diferente, porque todos tenían el mismo guru, todos tenían la misma filosofía, la misma religión. La pelea era de entre hermanos, entre primos, por el trono.
¿Quién era el siguiente emperador? De hecho, el guru de todos ellos era Dronacharya.
So, the Bhagavad Gita was spoken at the beginning of the Kurukshetra war, which basically had all the armies of the known world assembled for the great battle. And I always say, Krishna said, now that I have your attention, comprende?
Sí.
Such a big event is about to happen. Everybody who's anybody in the known world at that time is looking, and Krishna is saying, now that you're all here and paying attention, listen to this. Never was there a time when you nor I did not exist, or any of these kings and everything. And he enlightens Arjuna and tells him, you're a Kshatriya, it is your duty to perform your duty and not run from your duty, you see. But it is not a religious war. It's not fought over any kind of religious belief or disbelief or anything like that. Nothing of the kind, you see. It was a one might argue, well, it was a transgression, means the one side was actually going against true religious principles or something. Well, in that case, then it would be the duty of the king to uphold true religious principles, you see. But it's not a religious war per se. And neither is Bhagavad Gita a religious book. It's a book of philosophy and knowledge, not religion. Religion is what happens when real knowledge of reality fails. The people fail to grasp the truth, they create religions.
Ok. Entonces, cuando es esta batalla de Kurukshetra, no es de que fue una batalla como ahí de poquito, sino fue donde llamó la atención de todo. Y entonces Krishna estaba poniendo como el ejemplo, ¿no? De que Guru Maharaj, de que Krishna dice, bueno, estoy llamando la atención de todos, entonces hablo esto de que nunca ha existido nadie y nunca habrá dejado de existir todos estos futuros. Entonces el deber de un guerrero es cumplir su deber y destruir, pero esto no tiene que ver con una pelea de religión o tiene que ser a fuerza con una religión, porque el Bhagavad Gita está basado en lo que es una filosofía, porque la religión es cuando se pierde, ¿qué?
Cuando la filosofía, cuando la gente pierde la filosofía o falla, o sea, no
Se
la
crean.
entienden, necesitan crear religión para tener algo, ¿no?
So we look for a moment what was happening there. The throne was usurped, the Pandavas were cheated. Basically, you have an invader, an intruder. And the duty of the Kshatriya is to stand up to these intruders and usurpers. Nowadays, we have these words, invading a sovereign nation. I mentioned this in my commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, that nowadays we go and invade some country. The Kshatriyas never invaded anybody. Kshatriya means protector. They protect their kingdom. Defense is what they're all about, defense. And the kingdom is attacked, then they fight. Well, this was an attack from inside India, inside the family even. These are relatives on the other side. And their teacher, Dronacharya, he's even on the other side. Bhishma is on the other side. It's a very disheartening engagement. And so Arjuna is like, I'm not going to fight. And then Krishna has to say, no, it's your duty to fight, it's your duty to protect, it's your duty to defend, it's your duty to destroy the usurpers, the invaders, the cheaters. Otherwise, you neglect your duty, people will call you a coward, you get the bad karma of all this, your next life, you're burdened by this. You are a Kshatriya. You have to fight.
Entonces el deber de un Kshatriya es de proteger, no de invadir. Y en este momento, en lo que está pasando en el campo de batalla, es que los Kshatriyas tienen que levantarse y pelear contra los usurpadores, los invasores. Pero del otro lado, con los que tienen que pelear está Dronacharya, Bhishma. Entonces para Arjuna es muy doloroso.
So Krishna didn't just say, okay, you have to fight, get your sword, get your bow, get your spear, and your chariot, and let's get out there and do battle. He enlightened Arjuna. You're lamenting which you should not lament for. You're lamenting for the body. Nobody's going to die here. People are going to transmigrate to the next life, but no one's going to die here. And he enlightened him about the yoga system. So many things are there. Karma, yoga, duties of Brahmins, Kshatriyas. He describes different natures of the divine, the demoniac, all these different things. Bhagavad Gita is not a war manual. Sun Tzu wrote the war manual. The Chinaman, Sun Tzu, The Art of War. He wrote the guidebook for war. Bhagavad Gita is actually the guidebook for peace. But as we even say today, there is no freedom without a battle. There is no peace unless you're ready to fight for it.
Maharaj, I came to my mind a question I'd like to
Okay,
ask.
well, let's finish this one
Yeah.
first and then just hold that, okay?
Entonces aquí Krishna no está diciéndole a Arjuna, ok, agarra tu espada, tu escudo y a pelear, sino está iluminando a Arjuna, iluminando acerca de que, pues en verdad es que nadie va a morir, sí van a transmigrar, pero nadie está muriendo, y lo estás haciendo como un deber. ¿Qué más, Brelina?
De que dice que no hay libertad si no hay una batalla. Bueno, eso fue casi al final.
It's like promotion. Okay, you have the story of Jesus. You take out the crucifixion, and you don't really have much of a story. That like, wow, that got everybody's attention. So you want to do something, you put up a big show, you put up a festival. That's the way we do it, right? So Krishna is, these are times, and these are heavy times, and so he creates this situation where everybody's looking, everybody's paying attention. I mean, this is the battle that changes the world. And he takes that format. It's like if you had what's the biggest sports event? Mexico is battling it out for the World Cup in soccer. You couldn't find a single person on the street in Mexico that day. If Mexico went all the way to the World Cup to battle England or Jamaica or somebody for the final trophy, there wouldn't be anybody on the street that day. Everybody be off work. Everybody be on the tube, on the phone, just watching this event. And then can you imagine somebody walks out there and speaks Bhagavad Gita first? The whole of Mexico is looking, right? Right? Well, that was the World Soccer match of 5,000 years ago. And the special effects were real. Real. Remember, in those days, people used to come and watch the battles. Even the Egyptian battles. Women, children, old men, and civilians were exempt from war. They didn't go and kill, they'd come out and picnic. Wow, look at that chariot go. Wow, oh, the king is dead. They're winners. Long live the So I just say that Krishna says, so now that I have your attention, and then he speaks Bhagavad Gita.
Entonces todo esto se hace como una promoción. Es como si en el cristianismo quitas la crucifixión, como que no es lo mismo, ¿no? Y ponía el ejemplo de que siempre se jala la atención, y pone el ejemplo de México, ¿no? Burdamente, de que si todos escucháramos de México va a pelear por la final de la Copa del Mundo contra Inglaterra, no va a haber nadie, todos vamos a estar en teléfonos, celulares, en televisión, viendo. Entonces si vemos todo eso, así es lo que hizo Krishna para llamar la atención y para poder hablar el Bhagavad Gita, como que él todo lo atrajo así.
So we take the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, but we follow the life of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Tomamos el conocimiento del Bhagavad Gita, pero seguimos la vida de Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
And Arjuna became, Lalita or Vishaka?
Vishaka.
Vishaka. In Chaitanya Leela, Ramananda Roy is Vishaka, but he's also considered to be Arjuna, a twin incarnation. So we follow Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Arjuna as Ramananda Roy, and Mahaprabhu's movement has no place for violence. That we leave that to there's nobody fit anymore, but the so-called Kshatriyas and the warriors of the world are supposed to protect their countries and do that. That's not our job.
Antes de eso, ahorita que va a tocar ese tema, se me olvidó mencionar que menciona sobre que el Bhagavad Gita es para la paz, ¿no? Y el Sun Tzu fue creado para la guerra, por los chinos. Y ahorita dice que seguimos a Krishna y es Mahaprabhu. Y Arjuna es Ramananda Roy en el Chaitanya Lila. Y sí, que a la vez es Vishaka, Ramananda Roy.
Que tomamos la filosofía de Krishna, pero seguimos a Mahaprabhu.
Y que ya no hay ahorita lugar para kshatriyas aquí, ¿no?
One more thing and then we'll go to your question, Carlos. I forgot now. What was the last thing I mentioned?
About Rayananda and being, but Kshatriya is not protecting, they're supposed to protect, that's the last thing you were talking about.
Oh, there was one other point. There are hundreds of little side points and all these kind of things. They're also very interesting, so that one I forgot. So, I hope that answered your question, Carlos?
About I don't know how to pronounce it correctly, but I think it's Sambandha Jnana, the
Sambandha Jnana.
Yeah.
Sambandha Jnana, the knowledge of knowing what is what.
What is what?
This is, I was thinking about how Krishna was in the proper moment, in the proper situation with Arjuna. I believe this is the best frame to understand what is what in a very real and dramatic situation. Correct me if I am wrong,
Sure.
but what is, how should we understand properly the
Yes.
concept?
We're not armchair philosophers. Armchairs philosopher, for example, you name a philosopher, Descartes, Tolstoy, all these guys, follow their lives. They're all meat eaters, womanizers, drinkers, cigar smokers, perverts even, all kind of stuff, you know. There's no practice. There's no practice. So the practice is called sadhana bhakti. So attending classes is one of the processes in bhakti. But putting that into practice, that is something else. Putting the proper diet, proper behavior, regulation, or waking up early in the morning, not staying up too late at night. These are just regulated practices, chanting. So you have to put everything put that knowledge into practice. Then it's something different. Then Sambandha goes to the next stage, is called Abhideya. And Abhideya in short means, you take that knowledge, then you go to Abhideya, means practice it. And the next stage, final stage, is called Prayojana, realization. And that comes bit by bit, piece by piece. Sambandha, the Acharya for Sambandha is Sanatana Goswami. Abhideya, the Acharya is Rupa Goswami. Prayojana, the Acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami. And their corresponding deities also. Like when you go to Vrindavan, the first temple you're supposed to go to is Madan Mohan. That is the deity of Sambandha. Sanatana Goswami is the Acharya of Sambandha. Then the next temple you go to is Rupa Goswami, Govinda. That's the deity of Abhideya. And then finally Prayojana. That's Gopinath, the deity of Gopinath. But the Acharya is Raghunath Das Goswami. There's a little difference. The person related to Gopinath is Madhu Pandit. His deity is Gopinath. But Gopinath means Lord of the Gopis. So in Krishna consciousness, there are many, many fibers that make this up. Like you might have noticed, I have this string, or some of us have this string. Where's that string? This string. Where's that string? It's hooked on my belt, yeah. This string, right? It's called a Brahman's thread. But it's more than just a thread. There are 9 strings. The 9 strings are grouped into 3s. It stands for the 9 processes of devotional service, the 9 islands of Navadvip. There's a special way you tie the knot. We have a special hairstyle with what we call a sika, neck beads. There's a reason we wear these, where are they? Tulsi beads. On it goes, our japa beads, 108. Then there's a string on the 8th one called the Astashaki. We got ritual. Lots of it. And it fills up our whole day. The way we dress, the things we wear, that's called sadhana bhakti.